displaying the glory of God's creation by exploring America one park at a time. Welcome to Parking Full Time with Big Dave, the parks professor. First hole. The par and distance are at the top of the screen. This hole is pretty flat. It's very wide open. And it has the distinction of being the only really open hole on this course. So it adds some variety, but other than that, it's almost a warm-up hole, and it's really a pretty boring hole. I would like to welcome you back to Parking Full Time. I am Big Dave, the parks professor. You'll see the basket coming up here. The basket sits on top of a black plastic pedestal, which does make putting a little more interesting. There's the first basket. And there's the view back to the tee. Now we head into the woods where we're going to stay for pretty much the rest of the course. The second hole is a gradually downhill hole. It is heavily wooded and there are plenty of large trees to get in your way here. It's also a sweeping dogleg to the right. And we'll get to the dogleg here in a few seconds. This hole is short for a par 4, but the dense woodedness of this hole definitely makes it a worthy par 4. I should mention that there are two 18-hole courses here at Shaver Recreation Center, and we are at the Shaver Recreation Complex in Seneca, South Carolina. This is the championship course. This is the newer and longer of the two courses. The other course is the original course, and I profiled that on a pair of videos a few months ago. Here's the basket. You see, this basket is in a really tight area with a lot of small trees clustered around the basket. So you have to really be careful to pick the right angle on your approach here. The third hole is another long, gradually downhill and heavily wooded hole. Most of these holes have two tees, and those are the two distances I'm giving you at the top of the screen. It's just the back tee and the front tee. Some of the tees were still under construction when I came here. As I mentioned before, this is a fairly new course. You'll see some posts over here to the left, some wooden posts. There is a system of walking trails that goes around this course. There were only a couple of people that I saw on those trails when I came here, but you definitely do have to check for pedestrians before you throw on many holes. This hole is actually a double dogleg. It's a slight dogleg left, and then another slight dogleg right. And we're coming down to the basket here. This basket's a little more open than on the previous hole, but there are still plenty of trees to bang your disc off of on this hole. The fourth hole is another long, gradually downhill hole. Most courses have mostly short holes with a couple of long holes thrown in. This course starts with a sequence of long holes, and there are some shorter holes coming up, but it's different than you find on most courses. The fairway here is wider than you might expect for a heavily wooded hole, and that can help you get around the dogleg here. This is a sweeping dogleg right. Maybe it would be nice to have a shorter hole in amongst these longer holes here at the beginning, but as I mentioned, there are some shorter holes coming up. I captured this video on Thursday, January the 4th, and it was a chilly day with temperatures in the low 50s when I came here. We're coming up to the basket. This basket is surrounded on two sides by sharp drop-offs. There's a sharp drop-off to the right and a sharp drop-off behind the basket. And so you need an accurate throw in order to get close to the basket here and set up a birdie opportunity. The fifth hole is the first hole with any severe elevation. We're starting on the rim of the ravine, and we're going to drop down to the creek at the bottom of the ravine. In fact, we'll jump down there here briefly. And then we'll cross the creek and head gradually uphill to get to the basket. This is a long hole for a par 3, but it is sharply downhill, as I mentioned. And also, once you get down here, this fairway is fairly wide for a heavily wooded hole. And so I think it's fine to leave this hole as a par 3. Once you get down the hill, then it's really a very straightforward hole. as long as you don't stray too far off of the fairway. There's the view back to the tee from behind the basket. The 6th hole is another long hole or another short par 4. This is a really tight hole, but it's also fairly flat. This course has one of the best collections of short par 4s that I know of in the Carolinas. And so if you like par 4 holes, then this is a really good course to play. The fairway has a couple of gradual bends in it. It bends first to the right and then bends back to the left just on up here. And now that the basket is coming into view, you can see that it's perched on top of a little mound, and it's surrounded by a veritable bird cage of trees. So you're going to need some really accurate throws in order to get anywhere close to this basket in just 2 throws, and therefore set up a birdie opportunity. This is a really nice, clever hole. I like this hole. Now we finally get to the first truly short hole. This hole plays moderately downhill, and there's a veritable picket fence of trees here about 70 feet in front of the tee. Another thing I'll mention about this course is the signage. This course is very well signed. There is a nice course map at the beginning by the first tee. There's also signs on every tee and also some other directional signs to help you find your way around. After one short hole, we now get back into the longer holes. This hole is another long par 4, and it's one of the longest par 4s on this course. This course is a par 66 or 64, depending on whether you play the back tees or the front tees. This hole starts in a fairly flat area with this seeming smattering of medium-sized trees here. But we're going to dogleg to the left, and after we dogleg to the left, we're going to head steeply uphill in order to get to the basket. There's also a small stream coming up here, but the water in this stream is not deep enough, so therefore losing a disc shouldn't really be an issue due to the creek. Losing a disc due to the dense forest around, that could be more of an issue. I do want to thank you for watching. Parking full time would not be anything without the people who watch. I realize that every day, and I thank you every day. There's the view back down the hill towards the fairway from behind the basket. 9th hole, and of course last hole on the front 9. We start out on an elevated tee on the edge of the ravine, and then we're going to drop down about 30 feet to get to the fairway, and then head up to the basket. A large number of trees constrict the fairway on either side, and that combined with the elevation drop down here from the tee really makes this one of the most exciting holes on this course. This is a really good course. It's one of my favorite courses in the upstate, and especially if you like longer courses, then you're really going to enjoy playing here. That is the end of the front 9. I will see you on the back 9. Until then, have a great afternoon, take care, and Lord bless.